Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Philip and I am a photographer based in the Midwest, and on this channel we talk about landscapes, nature, and traveling and how those go together. And in this video we're going to talk about how to use gradient filters to make better photos. Let's talk about local adjustments. This is going to be part one of a three-part series that I'm going to show you how to use these different local adjustments located within Lightroom to just be able to take your photos to that next level. Because what's going to happen, and you'll notice over time as you progress with your editing and your photography, is that global adjustments will only get you so far. So Philip, what are you talking about? Global adjustments, local adjustments? So if you're a beginner, and we're going to start there, a global adjustment is, for example, the exposure slider, right? So when you slide that slider from left to right, it's going to affect the entire image, right? So it's going to globally affect the image. Now, this comes into play when, let's just say, for example, you take a picture and there's a foreground, middle ground, background, and the background is the sky and the foreground is going to be some land of some sort, right? So let's just say that the landscape is going to be a little bit darker and the sky is bright, right? So you're going to want to increase the exposure of the foreground to maybe let the viewer see some more details or things like that. So as you globally adjust that exposure over to the right, it's also going to brighten the sky, and in some cases you are going to lose detail in the sky, and you don't want that, right? So then what do, right? So the answer to that is local adjustments. So the local adjustments we're going to be talking about in this series are going to be gradient filters, radial filters, and your adjustment brush. Now for this video, we're going to start with the gradient filter. And if you want to get more information about this and make sure you don't miss any videos, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell icon, because those other videos will be coming fairly shortly. Now let's just talk about the gradient filter, right? There's tons of uses for this, but we are going to go ahead and jump into the computer and we're going to go over some practical examples to help you out. So let's go do that. Okay, so we're in Lightroom, and let's just start editing this image a little bit. I'm noticing that it's just a little bit darker, so let's go ahead and raise the exposure a little bit and add some contrast, reduce the highlights, increase shadows, increase whites, decrease some blacks, make some more contrast, right? So this is kind of just like a basic image, basic editing of this image, let's just say, to not go into too much crazy stuff in detail for the purposes of this tutorial. Now what's going to happen here is that when I look at it and see what I don't like about this image after a basic example, right? So I have, it's a little bit dark over here in the tree area, right? And I kind of want to get rid of that. So let's go ahead and add some more exposure. So so the problem with that is that now the sky is getting too bright, right? For my own personal taste, the sky is getting too bright. So we're gonna go ahead and press Control Z to get rid of that adjustment. And if you're interested in some more quick hotkeys to kind of speed up your workflow, I do have a video that I'll link up here to help you with that. And so let's just go back. So let's try introducing some shadows, increase the shadows, but again it's the same problem, is that I'm globally adjusting, but it's kind of affecting the rest of the image, and you know, everything is kind of where I wanted except this spot, right? So let's locally adjust for this particular problem, right? So I'm going to go up to my graduated filter, that's hotkey M, which I talked about in that video in more detail. So we can go here. And the thing about graduated filters, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and slide this graduated filter in here, and you see that 3 lines appear in the image. So these 3 lines You can look from right to left. The right is going to be where the gradient starts, and it's going to fall off from there in a gradual manner, so it's soft. So I will go ahead and show the mask overlay. And as you can see, it's a darker red on the left than it is on the right. I'll drag this across the image so you have a better idea of what we're looking at here, right? So that means that the strongest effect is going to be over here on the right side of the image, and it's going to gradually fall off. Now that is just kind of how it'll happen with a normal typical gradient. What you can do here though is to play around and to show this example is that the closer these lines are together, the harsher the gradient is going to be. So you'll notice that if I drop the exposure now, there's going to be a hard line here of where that gradient stops, and it looks really unnatural. We can, I mean, obviously for this example, but when you spread those out, it kind of gradually fades and looks a little bit more natural and believable and less obvious, which is kind of like what I go for and what I would think that you would also go for as well. So we're going to go ahead and add this graduated filter in, give it some leeway a little bit so it's not so harsh, and then we're going to go ahead and boost the exposure a little bit from there. And as you can see, we have gained some more detail over here on the right side of the image without affecting hardly affecting any other parts of the image that we didn't want to. So that is the power of local adjustments, right? So now what's another example we can use here in this image, right? So let's just say that I don't like how much detail I lost in the sky. So let's go ahead and get rid of this other one. And we're gonna go ahead and get rid of that graduated filter and add in another one, right? So we're gonna go ahead and look at our overlay to see which part of our deal is reflecting. Now, what's gonna happen here, you'll see in this example that when I go to darken the sky, the filter is not selective, right? So quick bonus tip, and what you can do is you can go down into your range masks and go to luminance and go ahead and adjust those out to only affect the highlights. And you'll notice that here, I can go into more detail on that into another video, but to keep this short, so now basically what's happening is that I'm only really affecting the bright parts and a lot less. So now I'm only really affecting the sky, and I can dial in the sky and get just a little bit more detail out of that. So that is another example of how you can use the graduated filter. Now you can also use it on your landscape as well, as you would have guessed and imagined. Another quick tip on the graduated filter is that when you are using it, you can go ahead and hold shift, and that will keep your graduated filter straight for you. So if I wanted to boost some shadows in the landscape, I could also do that as well with this graduated filter. So those are just some really quick examples of the graduated filter and how you can use it to selectively edit specific parts of your image to get to where you want to be. Okay, so after watching this video, I hope that you have a better understanding of how to use gradient filters to make better photos that you're going to be happy with. And like I said, this is part one of my 3-part series of local adjustments, so make sure that you subscribe, because those other parts are going to kind of work together and to complete the series and help you get photos that you're happy with. So if you liked this video, go ahead and leave a like. I would appreciate it. If you have any more questions about any of the examples that I showed in this video about gradient filters, leave them down in the comments and I'll get back to you. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye.
I need you more.